What is up, Kansas City? It is Wednesday, February 13th at 3 o'clock on the dot. How we doing, Chiefs Kingdom? A lot of things going on today in the NFL. Really in the last week. A lot of funky stuff. Some funky stuff. That's why I did that introduction today. And I'll have to say, what I'm going to start out with is the major trade for the day. And major trade so far for the season. Joe Flacco has been traded to the Denver Broncos. And that was a scenario I wanted to bring up during the broadcast, as well as what is going on with John Elway and putting Band-Aids on wounds that need stitches. And again, we seem to be in a scenario where Denver's trying to play catch up. And I hate to tell y'all and out there in Colorado, but y'all are fishing again. You're fishing again. Joe Flacco is not the answer. I love this. I love this move. This is perfect. This is exactly what John Elway needs to submit his name on his tombstone as the GM of the Denver Broncos. Now, he owns the Denver Broncos too, but I think it's time he takes a step back and let somebody else control the ship, because it's obvious that he has no idea what he's doing. So moving on, let's talk about the Chiefs. First of all, defensive back coach Emmitt Thomas retires after 50 years in the league. As many of you know, he was a Hall of Fame cornerback with the Kansas City Chiefs, then moved on to a coaching career as defensive back coach for the last decade. Like I said, he spent 50 years in the league. Emmitt, you paid your dues. You've been a great defensive backs coach. I'm happy to see you retire on a good note. And, we're really making some moves on the defense anyway. So it's nice to see some fresh blood get in there. Matt House, former defensive coordinator for University of Kentucky, leaves the university to come be the linebackers coach for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, this was a controversial thing because Matt House first accepted the job, and then Kentucky told him that they were not willing to let him out of his contract, and then things got renegotiated where the Chiefs actually bought him out of his contract, so it all worked out. But that's a big thing. Matt House was an extremely aggressive defensive coordinator for University of Kentucky, and if you have not followed University of Kentucky, which it would not surprise me, but them, ultimately, they've turned that program around, especially being in the SEC. They play some big competition, and Matt House has really proven himself as a solid defensive coordinator in that conference. So it's not a surprise to me that he steps up here and moves the NFL under the Andy Reid coaching tree and becomes our linebacker coach. Steve Spagnuolo, God, I cannot say enough about that. I mentioned that in my last broadcast. This guy's an aggressive genius. This man is the only defensive coordinator to beat Tom Brady and Bill Belichick in the Super Bowl twice. Mind you, that's a huge deal to me. Because that's who we have to go up against still. So why not bring the man in who took Belichick and Brady down in two separate Super Bowls? The only team to do that, the New York Giants. As surprising as that sounds. Here's the thing. We needed a mix-up on the defense, and I loved it. The Steve Spagnuolo move was great. The Matt House move was great. I'm happy to see Emmitt Thomas move on and get on with his life, and I'm really happy to see Bob Sutton out, which he was picked up in Atlanta. I'm not sure what position he got picked up for. I really wasn't paying attention to that. I was just happy to see him out of Chiefs Kingdom. So with the season wrapping up and the new season beginning to take flight, the trade rumors begin. And with that being said, what do we do? I've heard all these things about Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, but I don't see that as a realistic move for the Kansas City Chiefs with where we are and our salary cap. I think it's more important for us to either put the franchise tag on D Ford or go ahead and sign him to a long-term deal. We're kind of hanging in the balance with Justin Houston and D Ford, and I'd rather put our focus on defense. But look, Antonio Brown is a great receiver. We just don't need him. Le'Veon Bell, a great running back. Could we use him? Yes, we could. We all know Kareem Hunt signed a one-year deal with the Browns for just over $1 million. We wished him the best of luck, but I sure would have loved to see him in a Chiefs uniform. So I also look for the Chiefs to draft a running back high in this year's draft. I think that would be an extremely important scenario for the Chiefs, and with our draft record, I really don't worry about what's going on with the Chiefs in the scenario for next year. We'll find somebody. I know we'll find somebody. I'm sure we've had our eye on somebody already. With that being said, I want to move on to some important dates here coming up in football. February 4th, which has already passed. Today's the 13th. The waiver system starts where teams can waive players. February 19th is the first day to franchise players. February 26th through March 4th, the NFL Scouting Combine. March 5th is the last day to franchise tag a player. March 11th through the 13th, teams can start signing restricted free agents and can trade restricted free agents. April 15th, coaches' staff starts off-season workout program with players. Things are going to come up here really quickly. April 19th is the deadline for restricted free agents to sign their new deals, to sign their new deals. April 25th through the 27th is the NFL draft. All of those are really important dates, and it's nice to know what's going on in the NFL and have those dates because they're key. In certain times, 4 p.m. is a deadline for teams to sign free agents, to start signing them, and the deadline for them to for that period to end. So even the time of day matters. So as we move on, I talked about bringing back D Ford. And I believe that's almost 100% scenario with a franchise tag. Also, another free agent with the Kansas City Chiefs is Mitch Morris. And I think that we all know that we're probably going to part ways with Mitch Morris. He missed four games as center, and Austin Reeder stepped in quite well and got himself I believe a 3-year contract extension. So that really told us what the future holds for Mitch Morris. So I look for him to be headed out the door. What else do we have on the board for today? There really seems like there's a lot to talk about. Let's really talk about the NFL as a whole. And this is no surprise to me that more teams have been making drastic moves to keep up with talent in the league. I think that's going to be starting a trend here in the NFL where you're going to see drastic moves every single year. Some moves in the middle of the season. This absolutely has turned into a next man up league, and teams don't have any patience for anything less than perfect production. And in this league right now, you better come with your A game, because there are some teams out there that can really blow your doors off. So I look for this to really be changing here in the NFL here in the next 5 years. You're going to see tons of changes every single year. And it's not just going to be this easy ride for the Kansas City Chiefs here in the next decade to achieve all these landmarks that ultimately have been set out in front of us. And look, we're the front runner to go to the Super Bowl next year already. We have been voted the number one team to head to the Super Bowl, and it's not going to be easy. I talked about Le'Veon Bell with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Look, the Pittsburgh Steelers could ultimately screw Le'Veon Bell and throw the franchise tag on him. And I'm not sure if that's something him and his agent have talked about. That's actually would be a great thing for Le'Veon money-wise. But as far as the franchise in Pittsburgh, I don't see that being a great move. Antonio Brown is absolutely on his way out the door. But does that take care of the problems all around the franchise? Was that it? is that enough to bring Le'Veon Bell back and the locker room understand why he was gone? Like I said, the Broncos today signed Joe Flacco. Horrible move, but I love it. So that tells me that, again, Denver will not be contenders next year. They might be a tad bit better, but it's not going to be by much. I look for the Oakland Raiders to really, really do something huge this year. They have 3 first-round draft picks. 3 first-round draft picks. I don't know what direction Gruden's going in, but I'll tell you what, I do believe in that man. He's proven a lot of people wrong over the years with 2 different teams, and the Raiders included, and the Buccaneers. I mean, he took 2 franchises that were sorry and turned around and took them straight to a Super Bowl, both of them. So I don't ever count Gruden ball out. San Diego, LA, whatever they are, the Chargers. I look for them to, have another season like they did last year. But this is Phillip Rivers' ball. We all know how Phillip Rivers is. He can't get it done in the clutch moments, and he basically chokes, kind of like Joe Flacco. So, with that being said, I think that the Chiefs can really ultimately run the table again next year in the AFC West and be back to back AFC West champs, and potentially head to the Super Bowl. Interesting thing. Everybody's been talking about Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray opted to go into the NFL draft instead of be a member of, the Atlanta Braves that he got drafted by in baseball. So, that's another potential Michael Vick type quarterback. And I don't know. I don't know how I feel about the kid. He's unproven. I mean, he's really, really young, and I think he's probably headed to Arizona. I mean, they have the number 1 pick in the draft, and that coach that they just hired has ties to Oklahoma. So I think Kyler Murray will ultimately end up in the NFC, which is a good thing for the Kansas City Chiefs, because I think he's going to be better than what people think, but it's going to take a little bit more time with him. He's not going to come right in the league and dominate right away. But look, everybody said that about Patrick Mahomes as well. But he doesn't have Patrick Mahomes' talent. He obviously does not have Patrick Mahomes' talent. So, with this upcoming draft, there's a lot to talk about. And I really think it's going to be a defense-heavy draft for the Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to go after cornerbacks especially, and a running back. So, with that being said, Chiefs Kingdom, that is the news for right now. I feel like I laid a lot down on the line here in the last 13 minutes. But I know there'll be more to come. There's going to be some huge moves around the NFL that will be noteworthy. And the Chiefs are making moves themselves, coaching moves that just make perfect sense. And it just couldn't get me even more excited for next year. I mean, it's just Kansas City. This is looking great. This is looking absolutely great. So, you all have a great week. It's hump day. Look, if you all are tired, get some sleep tonight. Go home, rest it off. Get ready for the weekend. I will have another episode this Saturday or Sunday, and hopefully we have some noteworthy Chiefs news to bring to the table, and possibly a free agency signing or something along those lines. So, this is the Richard Smith Show, where we talk about all things Kansas City Chiefs. You have a great day, Kansas City.